Suit your feelings, Father. You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
It is too late for me, son.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Gio, and The Rise of Skywalker isn't bad. I'll be honest, I expected it to be a lot worse than what we got with all the last-minute reshoots and test screenings. I actually enjoyed a bit of the character interaction, action was fairly solid, and Rey was actually fucking training, so you get some points there. However, while it wasn't bad, it wasn't very good either. The movie is overstuffed, the pacing is faster than The Flash, and the ending made me flip off the screen in the middle of the theater. However, these points aren't the main problem with the movie. The big thing that really drags it down is that nothing feels earned. The Rise of Skywalker for like half the movie doesn't feel like it's the end, rather the lead up that should have been in the previous movie. It doesn't strike the same feeling that Endgame did, where you know this was the end and felt satisfied when you got it. But why is this? What held this movie back from being the Avengers Endgame of Star Wars? Well, that's what I'm going to be breaking down in this video. Today I'm going to try to explain the real reason you may not like The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, obviously what I'm about to say isn't the only reason someone may not like The Rise of Skywalker. However, I feel like what I'm going to address is the root problem with the movie. That being, in The Rise of Skywalker, nothing feels earned. We now have camaraderie with our group of heroes, but we never saw them grow as friends. The movie tries to wrap up each character's arc in a meaningful way, but they seemed either rushed or just fucking stupid. They tried to do more with the First Order, but it just comes out of left field and also somehow ends up ripping off Star Wars Rebels.
The code phrase? He's Fulcrum?
Your friend Zeb trusted me on the Ice Moon. I saved Sabine Wren at the Fighter Academy, and now I'm trying to save you.
All these plot points are made out to be these big moments, but they didn't have any build-up. As a result, when the movie tries to do the big emotional scenes, there is less of an impact on the audience because it comes out of nowhere. You know what, I can't completely blame The Rise of Skywalker for this problem. Now that doesn't mean the movie doesn't have any problems, not by a long shot. It's still overstuffed with information, introduces pointless characters, and the execution of the final battle is abysmal. However, things like the way they wrap up many characters' arcs and the lack of impact the movie has as an ending to a saga is something that I can't really blame on the film. There is one thing, however, that from the start doomed this movie, and that was The Last Jedi. Yeah, look, I know. Okay. Just hear me out. I know making fun of The Last Jedi in 2020 is the equivalent of beating a dead disabled horse. But the movies need to subvert expectations instead of expanding on what The Force Awakens set up, doom The Rise of Skywalker, as it had to wrap up what The Force Awakens set up by itself and fix any plot holes left behind from The Last Jedi. Here, let me explain a little better. The sequel trilogy is supposed to tell one big story, right? So let's look at each movie like it's a different act in the 3-act structure. Act 1 being The Force Awakens is all about setting up. We are introduced to the world, the characters, and relationships between said characters. This is where the protagonist is thrown into the new world and by the end of the movie accepts their path. The hardest part of Act 1 has to be that it needs to make the setup interesting for the audience, and The Force Awakens did just that, as shown by the amount of intrigue and theories the movie sparked. Now Act 2 has to build off of the foundation set by Act 1, as well as increase the stakes and continue to push our character arcs along their next logical point. And here's where The Last Jedi fails. The movie doesn't really build off of the foundation of The Force Awakens, only expands on Rey's relationship with Kylo and brings the stakes to a grinding halt. The end of Act 2 is supposed to be the lowest point for our heroes, where the stakes are about to reach their peak leading into Act 3. But The Last Jedi doesn't have that. The stakes were incredibly low because the First Order wasn't a threatening presence anymore. I mean, at the end of the film, Snoke is dead, Kylo has lost to Rey twice, and Hux?
With an H, skinny guy, kind of pasty.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
He's laughably incompetent. The movie also doesn't try to build up this group of Rey, Poe, and Finn. I mean, Poe and Rey at the end of the movie literally just met. So when we see them bantering at the start of Rise of Skywalker, it feels jarring because it comes out of nowhere. This goes for every character relationship that isn't Rey and Kylo. We don't get to see any of these people become friends or really grow from each other, so it makes it harder to sympathize with them going into the last movie. At this point, it doesn't matter what we do in Act 3 because we're already being held back by Act 2. Now you're probably saying that it was JJ's job when making The Rise of Skywalker to fit it into the prior two movies. And I agree with you. My problem isn't with the decisions Rian Johnson made for The Last Jedi, even though I hate many of them. My problem is that he should have never been the director to begin with, or at least been given as much power to change the things that he did. To this day, it confuses me that Disney thought it'd be a good idea to not keep JJ around to head the trilogy after the success of The Force Awakens. He clearly had some ideas for what he would do with these characters if he made The Last Jedi, as The Rise of Skywalker has many elements like exploring Poe's past that would fit better in the second movie so we can better flesh out his character. This is what makes The Rise of Skywalker feel less impactful. The Last Jedi never expanded on these characters or events enough to get us to care about how they end up. The 3-act structure, explained in the most simplistic terms, is to establish, build, then resolve. If we don't get anything built up to, the audience isn't going to care about the resolution. Both The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker fail in their own unique way. But at least if The Last Jedi focused more on building from the foundation set by The Force Awakens rather than destroying it, maybe The Rise of Skywalker would have been received better. I really wanted to like this movie, and if I isolated from the trilogy, I probably would have liked it more. However, the movie is not just the end of a trilogy, but the end of a saga, so it needs to be judged as such. And sadly, I don't think it was the ending any of us was looking for. The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that for me will always live in the what ifs of my mind, as I see what JJ was going for with many of the plot points and character direction, but he never earned those moments, and it made The Rise of Skywalker feel like a dud. I do have hopes for the future of Star Wars. I don't think the franchise is dead, as I explained in my video on The Mandalorian. But it just sucks that this is how we're going to end the saga. A film that has an overstuffed plot, pointless characters, and an infuriating ending. But worst of all, it tries to make the audience feel for moments the movie never earns. This is why I, and maybe even you, don't like The Rise of Skywalker.